After years of waiting, after a relationship that survived uncertainty, after keeping their love story largely hidden from the spotlight, one of Coronation Street's most familiar faces has finally reached a moment many fans thought might never come. A moment filled with emotion, relief, and perhaps something even deeper. Because this isn't just a wedding story. It's a story about patience, commitment, and a love that quietly endured while the world watched from a distance. Welcome back to Coronation Street Update. And today we're taking a closer look inside the relationship that has finally led Coronation Street legend Michael Le Vell to say those life-changing words. I do. For decades, millions have known Michael as Kevin Webster, the dependable mechanic, the familiar face of Weatherfield. A character who has experienced heartbreak, betrayal, family drama, and emotional turmoil on screen. But behind the cameras, behind the scripts, a very different story has been unfolding. And today that story has reached its most emotional chapter yet. The setting could not have been more perfect. Manchester. Blue skies. Warm sunshine. Friends and family gathering together. And at the center of it all stood a man whose life has been intertwined with Coronation Street for more than 4 decades. As Michael arrived at the venue, there was something impossible to miss. The smile. Not a polite smile. Not a celebrity smile. A genuine smile. The kind that comes from someone who knows a long-awaited moment has finally arrived. As cameras clicked and guests gathered, Michael gave photographers a thumbs up. A simple gesture. Yet one that seemed to say everything. Excitement, happiness, relief, and maybe even gratitude, because this day had been a very long time coming. Then came the arrival of Louise. Elegant, confident, radiant. The woman who had spent more than a decade by Michael's side. The woman who had become one of the most important people in his life. And as she stepped towards the ceremony, a brand new chapter was about to begin. But then everything changes. Because this story isn't really about a wedding. Not entirely. It's about what came before. The years that built toward this moment. The challenges. The waiting. The quiet determination. Michael and Louise first began dating back in 2014. What started as a romance gradually evolved into something much deeper. 3 years later came the proposal. A promise. A commitment. A vision of a shared future. Yet despite becoming engaged in 2017, the wedding itself never arrived. Not immediately. The years rolled on. Life happened. Time passed. And still they remained together. That alone says something powerful. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, their relationship became a lesson in patience. A lesson in endurance. A lesson in choosing the same person over and over again. Psychologically, that kind of commitment is fascinating. Because relationships aren't tested during the easy moments. They're tested during the waiting. The uncertainty. The everyday routines. The periods when excitement fades and reality takes over. And somehow Michael and Louise continued moving forward together. But that may not be the whole truth. Because every long-term relationship carries hidden chapters. Moments nobody else sees. Private conversations. Unspoken fears. Personal struggles. Tiny crossroads capable of changing everything. And according to reports, their romance wasn't entirely free from turbulence. There was a brief split early in the relationship. A moment when their future together appeared uncertain. For some couples that would have been the end. The point of no return. But for Michael and Louise, it became something else. Yes. And the relationship survived. What happens next is surprisingly moving. Instead of allowing setbacks to define them, they continued building something stronger. Year after year. Milestone after milestone. Until eventually that long-awaited wedding day finally arrived. And that's when things become emotional. Because look at who was there. Friends. Family. Corrie legends. People who have watched Michael's life evolve both on and off screen. There was laughter. Celebration. Shared memories. And perhaps most importantly, a sense of closure. A sense that a journey many years in the making had finally reached its destination. Yet there is another layer to this story. One that many fans may relate to. Michael is one of Britain's most recognizable television stars. For decades he has lived under public scrutiny. His successes. His mistakes. His personal life. Everything has attracted attention. Yet despite that visibility, this relationship remained remarkably private. And perhaps that's one reason it lasted. No endless publicity. No constant headlines. No need to prove anything. Just two people building a life together away from the noise. In today's world, that feels almost revolutionary. And maybe that's why fans are reacting so emotionally. Because underneath the wedding photographs lies something incredibly human. A story about loyalty. A story about perseverance. A story about finding stability in an increasingly chaotic world. But could this wedding represent more than a happy ending? Could it actually be a new beginning? Many fans certainly believe so. Because marriage doesn't close a chapter. It opens another. A completely new phase of life. New memories. New challenges. New adventures. And if this relationship has already survived more than a decade together, perhaps its strongest chapters are still waiting to be written. For now, though, one thing seems undeniable. This was a day filled with genuine happiness. A day built on years of commitment. A day that reminded everyone that some love stories don't need drama to be extraordinary. Sometimes patience is enough. Sometimes loyalty is enough. Sometimes simply staying together becomes the most powerful story of all. So what do you think? Were you surprised by how private Michael and Louise have kept their relationship? Do you think long engagements help build stronger marriages? And after more than a decade together, what do you think the future holds for the happy couple? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this Coronation Street update, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Corrie news, cast stories, behind-the-scenes updates and emotional soap revelations. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you in the next update.